released in 2022, this unlicensed quote-unquote 6-scale collector's edition Zack Fair from Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core is currently the last entry for this franchise by VTS Toys. Now you might be thinking, why not just wait for the Game Toys version? Well, like Angeal once said, no story is not worth hearing, though he might have to make an exception after seeing this release. Alright, I have more to rant about these head sculpts than praises to sing, so let's start with a few good things. In terms of likeness, these are slightly better than VTS's past attempts for Cloud, and if the bangs aren't so close to the face, I'd even say young Zack's smirking portrait on the right is pretty on point. As for old Zack on the left, his egg-shaped scar on the chin is a bit off in both placement and size, and the single lock of hair hanging down should be even more exaggerated. Though I'd say the biggest problem here is the hair sculpt. For young Zack, his hair spikes on top of and behind his head are softer and messier, and they do look great. But old Zack's got none of his sharp outward-pointing hair spikes, all because VTS used the same hair sculpts for both versions, while only changing the bangs on the front. Worst of all, the hair length on the back is made the same for both versions, as if it's some sort of middle ground to mitigate the difference. So, in order to cover everything using the least effort, VTS ended up missing the mark for both head sculpts. Now that's a new low. But for an unlicensed product, I can't say I'm too appalled. The costume is almost entirely recycled, but this one makes a little more sense because Cloud and Zack wear practically the same outfit, so I'll just cover a few highlights here. While the harness is resculpted to be symmetrical, its color is changed to this awful yellowish brown, which is baffling because the color on Cloud's harness looked pretty good. The pauldrons are an upgrade though. They sit really well on the shoulders and are somewhat articulated. It's also interesting that these shiny squares are actually more reminiscent of Zack's appearance in the remake, which made me realize now that they were in fact reused for the Advent Children Cloud, effectively making these inaccurate for either versions. And the same goes for the gloves, which are identical between the two releases, even though they were clearly designed for Zack. Another notable difference is the stiffer materials in the pants, along with these stitchings above the cuffs to help retain the shape, which to be fair, looks better than last time. The boots are once again the same pair since the remake, though I think the darker color from the AC version would have been more fitting here. And as you might have guessed, the base body is the same old one from past releases, so I'll keep the articulation segments short. The elbow joints have not improved, the ankle joints are still awful. But lucky for Zack, some of his most iconic poses can still be achieved to great effect. Even the accessories are a combination of new and old. Amongst the new is the standard issue Soldier Sword. The blade's got your run-of-the-mill flat silver, with a handle that bears all the necessary details. Angeal's Buster Sword makes a return from the previous Advent Children release. Only this time, the paint app is pristine because use brings about wear, tear, and rust, and that's a real waste. Oh, and the sword mounting mechanic is obviously the same as the remake Cloud. Just replace the cover and the harness with this nub and you're all done, and the grip is as sturdy as ever. The materials are of course recycled from the remake, with the same quantity for each type, but these are always nice to have. The small set is for use with the Buster Sword, and the large set is for display. Lastly, we have this Benora White, aka the Dumb Apple. It's got the white withered tips on each end, but the red here should be purple instead, and none of the hand parts can hold this apple without much force. And just as well, because after dealing with the same glove designs for 3 releases, these brittle wrist pegs finally broke on me. I had to use a drill bit to get them back out, so that was fun. And finally, we arrive at the collector's edition exclusives. Starting with this Chocobo statue, it comes with its own base that's thoughtfully equipped with magnets, so it easily and securely snaps to the feet. The bird itself is also vividly sculpted, with a downright crisp texture on the feathers. The thorns on the legs are a bit much for me though, but most unfortunately, this Chocobo resembles more of its FF15 counterpart than it does for FF7, which is quite emblematic of VTS's approach to their products. All details, no accuracy. This thing was also never meant to be 6 scale, but it's not even big enough to go with the PAK figures, so I do find this a little awkward in the display. The diorama base fares a little better though. This blood-stained rock formation is somewhat reminiscent of Zack's last stand on the outskirts of Midgar. It comes with this battle-damaged Shinra infantry helmet, complete with an opening here, so you can skewer right through it. It's also a very clever way to incorporate the standard issue sword, as a few of these were briefly seen in the aftermath of the fateful showdown. For the size comparison, the obvious choice here is VTS's own remake and Advent Children Cloud. I was hoping these figures would at least be in scale with each other, but since no changes were made to the base body, Zack isn't any taller than Cloud like he should be, which is a bit of a letdown for me. Then we have our usual dose of FF7 figures by Game Toys. This Zack is frighteningly as tall as Sephiroth. What a surprise. And here's Cloud literally looking up to Zack before completely forgetting that he exists. Honestly, I think I should do the same. Needless to say, this one isn't gonna work too well with other 6-scale figures either. So there you have it, the 1/6 scale Collector's Edition Zack Fair by VTS Toys. Without putting the Game Toys figures too high on the pedestal, I do think this one is serviceable, just like every release that came before. But with the staggering amounts of recycled parts, VTS had made it very clear that they have no intention of ever getting these right, which I found to be incredibly tragic. So in that sense, I'm a bit relieved that this could be VTS's last attempt for this line, at least for the time being. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.